I breathe and know the truth for me. I breathe and know the truth for you. We breathe and know the truth for all. We breathe and know the truth. I breathe and know the truth for me. Breathe and know the truth for all. We breathe and know the truth for us. We breathe and know the truth. I breathe and know the truth for me. I breathe and know the truth for you. We breathe and know the truth for all. We breathe and know the truth. Good evening and welcome to Kitchen Conversations. I'm so glad you're here tonight. And as you know, before we kick off anything, we like to kick it off with a blessing. And we're honored to have one of our very own divine, spiritual practitioners, giving it to us, Christine Thompson.
Thank you, Gino. Hi. So this is a time where we get to breathe together. And this is a time where we get to pause and go within. So however you join this evening, wherever you are, let's just drop down into our hearts. So let's just know and affirm together that this evening is been ordained. That through the powerful presence of the one holy life, that this evening, that the conversation that we're having is so crucial, that it is indeed God ordained, that it is love ordained, that it is a holy conversation. And so I'm just knowing that through that one whole and divine, brilliant life is Gino, and music with Linda, and the support with Sarah, that what is happening here through Gino is indeed a love fest, that it just transcends from this space into all the hearts for more love and more love and more love. So I just simply surrender here, knowing God is so good, that God is love, and I let it go, and I say, and so it is.
That was yummy. Thank you, Christine. Oh, yummy, yummy. Oh, you better listen, my sisters and brothers, 'cause if you do, you will hear of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. If one of us in chains, none of us are free. 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 If one of us is in chains, don't you know we are not. We're not free. Thank you, Linda. That was sweet. Linda was there. We can clap out loud for Linda. That was awesome. So tonight, we're talking about what is critical race theory. CRT, all of the madness that's surrounding it, the tension, and the politics. So let me just give you a little notice. I have a video to show you tonight. And the video is definitely talking about some of the political aspects that are connected with critical race theory. And the way that it has been presented, you're not able to separate them. I looked for a lot of different videos that would explain it very clearly, what it is and what's happening, that didn't have a political overtone, but I did not find it. And so I surrendered and said, then obviously we have to step into that. So, that being said, whatever your political beliefs are, let's take them and put them in a bowl, put them in a yummy bowl, a bowl filled with yummy fruit and delicious candies that you like and appreciate, until after it's over. Let's just be open, and I'm gonna try to stay as open as possible. Yeah, so I'm gonna play this video for you. It's a little bit over 8 minutes, but it's well worth it because it really does go into detail in explaining what it's about, how it came about, and it'll be great for us to pick it up from there. So here we go. Critical race theory.
So Republicans are fanning the flames of a new culture war, claiming the teaching of critical race theory is a threat to our kids and to community relations. But this isn't just some abstract argument. They're actually pushing through legislation in state after state as we speak. Legislation aimed at making sure it can't be talked about in schools, which isn't just dumb because critical race theory isn't taught in schools to begin with. It's taught to law students in university. But it's also a complete violation of the First Amendment from a party that claims to be all about free speech. Joining me now is Kimberly Crenshaw, Executive Director with the African American Policy Forum. She's also a law professor at Columbia and UCLA, host of the podcast Intersectionality Matters, and she's the one who coined the phrase intersectionality and also co-founded critical race theory. Kimberly, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Your African American Policy Forum is campaigning against these Republican censorship campaigns. So I want to start by asking you to please explain what critical race theory actually is, because Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene clearly don't have a clue. You do. You helped found it. Define it for our viewers, please, in the simplest of terms.
Well, the simplest of terms, and thanks for the opportunity. Critical race theory is the study of law and how it has been part of the infrastructure from slavery to emancipation to segregation to today, upon which racial inequalities have been based. It's basically an effort to think about, we have had commitments to equality since the 14th Amendment, yet our reach has not realized itself in real real equality. So we're basically just asking questions and looking at the way that law has been a conduit for racial inequality, and therefore what we need to do about law in order to bring us closer to the dreams that we have as a society. But let me be clear. This is not about critical race theory. Ted Cruz knows what critical race theory is and isn't. The people who are trying to create this hysteria around critical race theory know what critical race theory is or isn't. What this is backlash politics, coming precisely at a moment where finally racial justice has become a majoritarian interest on the part of Americans from all races and all classes. So this is a way of pushing back against that without saying that we're for racism.
Yes.
They can say we're against critical race theory.
Yes, well said. And you mentioned Ted Cruz, like you, an alumnus of Harvard Law School. He compared critical race theory to the KKK. What is your response to that, to Senator Cruz on that specific comparison?
Well, you know, it would be laughable if it weren't so dangerous and if it weren't so familiar.
Yes.
This is a mob mentality trying to Willie Hortonize racial justice. And we've seen it before. We saw it right after the end of the Civil War, when the idea that racial equality was anti-white racism was articulated by the President of the United States, President Johnson, who vetoed civil rights, saying that it was reverse discrimination. It took away from white people and gave to black people. But that wasn't the last time we saw it. We saw it during the civil rights movement, when many white people said, equality, being forced to serve you, violates my civil rights. So the idea that anti-racism is anti-white is a tried and true playbook move. It used to be part of the neo-nationalist right. It's now moved to the center of the Republican Party on the heels of this so-called hysteria around critical race theory.
And hysteria, indeed, it is. You've written nearly a dozen books on race issues, including one literally called Critical Race Theory. I want to put it in the mail to Ted Cruz's office. There's new polling out this week from The Economist, which found only 26% of Americans say they've heard a lot about critical race theory, with an additional 38% saying they've heard a little. Of those a little, over half say they have a good idea of what critical race theory is, or they think they do, and the majority view it unfavorably. If you take a look at the number of mentions the term critical race theory is getting over on Fox News, it's gone through the roof in recent months. How much does that worry you? How much does that tell you that this country is not in a good place, especially on the right?
Yeah. You know, I used to wonder a lot about how during the end of Reconstruction, people of color and people of goodwill understood what was happening. Did they know that African Americans were going to be completely disenfranchised and not be able to vote for 7 decades? Were they aware that violence was going to take hold in capitals throughout the South, that there were going to be coups? Did the media participate in it? Were they believing some of the lies or failing to ask the questions, failing to consider the source? And this moment makes me get a sense of what it must have been like. Lies being told, people believing, and people of goodwill being confused and not knowing what to do or what to make of it. See, what they need is for those who are for democracy to just be confused about it, and then they win. So the point that we have to be about right now is saying, A, what critical race theory is, but more importantly, this is about all of racial justice. If you marched last year after George Floyd, if you have had a diversity training and suddenly you understand how you could do better in your workforce, then you are on our side on this, and you should not allow yourself to be taken to some hysterical set of beliefs about this big bad thing that you never heard of until the last month.
Indeed, and when I look at this current frenzy, Kimberly, on the right over critical race theory in our schools, it's coming for us. It reminds me as a Muslim of the frenzy over Sharia law, creeping Sharia back after 9/11, when you had states like Oklahoma amending their constitution to ban Sharia, even though there are hardly any Muslims in Oklahoma. They may say it's not racist to be opposed to Sharia law or to be opposed to critical race theory, but then the same people end up behaving in a pretty obviously racist way, banning things that don't actually need banning, and that's the dog whistle.
Well, it's not a dog whistle anymore. It's a bullhorn. They have shaken the facade of a dog whistle, but let's understand why it works. It works because scapegoating has always worked to help people cover up their misdeeds and their crimes. Let's not forget, this is the party that has put democracy on life support. And now, while they have a pillow over its head, they're saying, look, critical race theory over there. This has been a tactic. It was used by Charles Stewart in Boston, who killed his own family and pointed to a black man, Susan Smith, who pointed to a black man who killed her own daughter. These are people who are killing democracy, and they know that they can distract people from that fact by pointing at black people, pointing at racial justice, pointing at ideas that they're uncomfortable with. We need to learn a lesson from that past and not let them get away with it again. It's up to us. We determine whether this is going to be effective or not.
We do indeed. Kimberly Crenshaw, an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for your insights and your analysis. I hope more people will listen.
Let's take a breath, as Reverend Kevin would say. Let's take a breath. It's a lot. It's a lot to digest. And fear is a big culprit running things. When I first heard about critical race theory, I actually heard a black woman speaking about it, and speaking in a sense that it was something that was going to continue to debilitate her child from getting an education of recognizing their own power and their own value. And I shook my head. I was like, am I totally off base here? So I just want to explain again, critical race theory was a legal theory. It is a legal theory that did the study of how the systematic system of racism has been implemented in our entire system. And it was done to show how, for 400 years, and we're still counting, racism has been around. So, when I started really grasping the understanding of that, this is not just about people having different feelings toward other people. This goes deeper. It's a system that supports keeping people, anybody of color, at a disadvantage. And so if you can kind of understand that, this is not people, teachers or anybody, that's preaching hate. If someone is doing that, that's not what critical race theory is about. It is not about hating white people. It's not about hating people that may have suppressed other people. It is about us honestly sharing our history. Being able to share a history so that we don't continue to keep this loop of racism going. And so we see it has spilled over into sexism, man, woman, just in every capacity. We've tried to suppress people if we don't understand them, if we don't think that how they're living is the way they should live, or they're an American. That's not what an American does. So I thought it was really important that we talk about critical race theory. And I know for a lot of people it's a very sensitive, and for me as well, it's a very sensitive conversation. The understanding that if we don't start to tell the truth about our history, and there are people that get upset, and I have to say, I was one that said, why do we got to go back to the past? But I've come to understand that we don't have to call it critical race theory. We can put any other name we want on it. It's kind of like defunding the police. It's not about defunding the police. It's about supporting the police so that they have other things in place to help with situations that they don't know how to deal with. Just a bad name. I'm not saying critical race theory is a bad name, but this is a theory of how our system has supported through laws, and some of the laws are still on the books. In Virginia, it's still legal to lynch a black person. I mean, this is 2020. It's legal. That's mind-blowing to me. I want to read you this because I thought this was amazing. It says, kids are, in 2018, 8% of U.S. high school students that were surveyed identified slavery as the central cause of the Central War. Only 8%. 8%. In South Carolina, they had a book describing slavery. And it said in that book, it said that the masters treated their slaves kindly. This was written, and it's still there. The masters treated their slaves kindly, and they were urged to become Christians and to not be a heathen. For 130 years, this has been in one of the legal legislation books in South Carolina. So when we start looking at right now, this is a powerful time because there's so much about race that's coming up everywhere. So many misconceived ideas about people and cultures. And we all have our own bias, and we all have it in some form or way. So when we deal with history, for Black history, not to have any mandated book that is for our schools to teach the history. Nowhere in America is it mandated that there are Black history books that teach real history. And I don't even like to call it real history, but teach our history. Teach our history. This is not about blame or shame. It is about awakening and creating the world that we say America could be. You know, it's been said, land of the free, home of the brave. We're talking about creating that for real. And not this space that it works for some and not for all. So, you know, I saw a parent that was irate that a teacher was teaching some real history. And she brought some of her books to the classroom that were describing what slavery was really like. Some of the inventions that Black people had created that we never got credit for. And, you know, YouTube, you have to be careful. But the video of the mom, at first I was angry, but then I just saw that there was so much fear that thinking that if your child learns a truth, that that's going to turn your child against you or against themselves. We have been teaching a false history for so many years. And to think that if we actually start teaching kids our history, that would cause a child to hate themselves or hate their own parents. And once again, I'll say, if there is any teacher or any mentor that's teaching hate, that is a totally, that's doing the same thing to me that they're doing in the Republican Party. They're spewing fear and hatred to distract. And I love what she said, that if you march for George Floyd, you are aware that there are issues, that there is racism. In trying to not address the history challenge that we have in our schools of what is taught, the Underground Railroad is taught. Frederick Douglass. I mean, I could literally probably list the 10 things that are taught. And I went to Catholic school. I have learned more in the past 6 months about my own history. Things that I was like, oh, I know that we didn't get credit for a lot of our inventions. I understood that. But just the laws that were made to keep a people suppressed, that has been something that has truly awakened me. A few weeks ago, I did a show on the laws of racism, and in one of the British colonies, in their legislation, it was written that a slave would be a slave for life. And so we find ourselves now in this space where 400 years feels kind of like life. It feels like a long time. And don't shy away. Don't shy away from the opportunity to dive deeper. Critical race theory is pushing us to dive deeper. It's pushing us to start to look at how legislation is created. The cops can go through a low-income area and see people hanging out on the corner, and there's a law that says that's loitering. And so they can arrest them. These are things that you go, well, why are they hanging out? Well, it's their neighborhood. Why can't they? These are things that are in our system that keep this divide between everyone. Even still with our housing department. I mean, housing is, they don't use the term red line, but it's still created that way. 2019, they did a study, 2 women, same neighborhood, same amount of money, same education. One had a higher interest rate. And it's funny when I share that with people, they come up with all kind of excuses. And I said, no, they had the same education. They made everything the same. The only thing that they could not change was the color of their skin. The color of their skin. So when we start talking about race and thinking about race, to come to the awareness that it's much more than what somebody holds in their heart. And I get that I may not be able to change your heart, but we can change legislation and laws that don't support equality. We can educate our kids so that they understand the importance of every culture and what it brings to America. Because this wasn't built by one man. We were all a part of this. Our Asian brothers and sisters and Filipinos, Africans, whites, Hispanic, Indians, everybody is a part of this. And yes, our history has been tragic, to say the least. But it's history. We get to, in this point, in 2020, to make a decision not to repeat that. And I think that's a big responsibility. There is an amazing project that was created by Nicole Hanna called the 1619 Project. And the New York Times, I think she was nominated for a Pulitzer. I don't know if she won it or not. But she wrote this to commemorate the 400 years of slavery and to show how systematically a system had been put into place. Very, very powerful. You know, it says that one of the reasons this project is so controversial is that it talks about the act of us talking about race and slavery in our schools. What I remember in school, we barely talked about, like I said, the Underground Railroad, you know. I have to say, when I saw the movie about the Underground Railroad and the connection that was made with God was so beautiful and so powerful. There was this point of the movies of the 12 Years a Slave, Roots, that my heart just couldn't take it anymore. I was like, enough already. But I'm waking up to understand I can't say enough. I can't say enough already. We have to keep diving deep. And it is now time that, whether you want to politically or not, this political stance is important, that we now call on our political leaders to be responsible. Whatever you believe, if you believe that the world should be based on equality, then we have to start calling on our political people, places, senators, congressmen. We have to be accountable for the laws that are going into place. I realize that I can no longer just go, to vote Democrat is enough. It's not enough, because you have just as many Democrats with ill will as you do as Republicans, and people that are in the middle. Making yourself aware and knowledgeable of what's being put into act, what's still out there, the laws that are still in legislation that says it gives people the right to kill and take another life without any repercussion. We can't look at things and say nothing needs to change. Absolutely. Everything needs to change. The 1619 Project was supposed to help teach students about the role that slavery has played in America. Some people feel that it is rewriting history, that telling the truth is rewriting history. Because, like with yourself, say you have something that happens and then you tell it and maybe you change one thing. And you tell it again, and now you've changed that one thing, then you add another thing that you changed. And so, in a couple of years, you've changed it so to where it's nowhere near the original thing of what happened, but it's also what you remember to be true now, because you've been telling yourself this lie, this story for so long. And so for so long, we've had a history that has been telling us either very little about slavery and about racism, or that slavery was this beautiful thing that the white master said, hey, I love you, come on, work my fields. Let me share my food with you and the family, which just isn't the truth. Slavery was brutal. It wasn't human. And that is one of the things that critical race theory will help people to recognize, that this system has created this space that is unsaid but is said, that this skin tone, other skin tones, aren't valued the same. And that's something that we all have to come into awareness, that just because of a skin tone or somebody's eyes are different, when the tragic incident of the Asian women that were killed, and the sheriff said the guy that did it had a rough day. It's so unthinkable. But when there's a system that's been put into place, and I keep saying a system because this is far beyond just somebody having hatred in their heart. There are laws to back the hatred. That's the thing, that there are laws, there are ways that people can get away with it. You know, everybody knows about the insurrection. But if you hear some of the talk of it now, it's an entirely different story. It was a rally that took place on January the 6th. And we have documentation of video that it does not show a rally. It does not show a rally at all. There was violence. It was savage. There was so much that went on there, but as I've started to hear some other people tell this story, it's frightening because people are starting to believe that, yeah, it was just a big rally. It was not just a big rally. And this is how things get so twisted and bent out of shape. And so when we look at a history of slavery, a country that was built on the back of slavery, we can't get away from it. We can't get around it. We can't tiptoe. It's just what it was and what it is right now. Slavery is in a very different form now, but we still have a challenge of racism that's so deeply rooted. And sometimes we don't even realize that we're doing it. Sometimes we don't recognize that because somebody comes from a different part of the country, or even they come from a different block, that you have ideas about them, that you have preconceived notions about this person because of what you've heard that this is what goes on. And so why wouldn't we commission some of our Black historians to create a history book and trust the work that's gone into there? We have some amazing scholars that have been doing the work for years to create a book that can help teachers support and teach truth, teach history. You don't even have to say truth, teach history. And just like with anything else, there will be different accounts of it. But what's been able to be seen now is that you can document. There have been so many things that have been found and discovered, and the legislation that has been shown, that you can see that in the earlier days, our forefathers, they wrote everything down. I mean, everything, which was absolutely wonderful, because when you go back and look at it, there it is. There it is. Unlike now, we don't write everything down, and we erase emails, and and we say a riot was a rally. So let's just take a breath. There is no one answer, no one way. Sometimes we try to work out a problem that we've had for a year or two. This has been 400 years. And so right now, you see that people have had enough. A sweet friend asked me about the young athlete that turned her back to the American flag. And she said, what's your take on that? I said, I totally understand. And her reply was, but it's the American flag. And I said, I know that's what it is for you. She was like, well, no, and she's very, very conscious, very awake. But it's one of those things of understanding. Her point was that this is the American flag and you don't do it then. And my point was, we've tried that way. If there was a platform, she had a platform, And you may disagree, and it's totally, I get it. But as a black woman, as a person of color, when for so many years we've tried to talk it out, tried to say, hey, there's a problem. It's been years, and we're still in that same spot. And so you have an athlete that has a platform that says, I'm going to show you what I feel. The America that you feel is not the America that I feel. And it's not that I don't love America, but it's different. So I could totally understand that when she turned her back to the flag, not turning her back on people, but turning her back on what America is standing up right now showing. We're not showing the potential of what we can be. We're busy trying to hide and to not honor all of the ill will that has gone into place, all the people. And there have been many people, white, Indians, that have given their life to try and hold this dream that we call the land of the free. Many people have given their life to support what they know was equality. And so she said, I never thought of it that way, that, I was like, we've just had enough. So for you, it seems like it's really disrespectful to turn the back on the flag. For me, I get it. It was an opportunity to say, I'm unhappy. I'm tired. I'm tired of not being respected. I'm tired of having to do more than or to be judged because of. Just tired. And so we have the patriots right now that are saying, in order to be a patriot, it's almost kind of like you have to be on the left. But to me, it's to love a country and a people that believe that we're all divine beings and that we're here all over the world. We're here to move the world forward. And so right now, as we are dealing with critical race theory, as we're dealing with racism, as each of us every day, we're making choices on how we're going to be. What are we going to support? And there's a lot coming at us constantly. And if you're a news person, there's a lot of and a lot of it is all about fear. So I'll say this. Critical race theory is an opportunity for all of us to look at a history, to explore a people, to understand how we have gotten to where we are, and to then collectively come together and to create anew. I heard this beautiful spokesperson say, I can't say that I love America, but I can say that I look forward to what the future could bring. And we do have a future. Don't let fear control your heart space, control your mind. Be open. Nobody's got the answer, but one thing for sure, everybody at the core is a love button. And this thing of hate, the reason I feel that the bubbling up, we can't hate anymore. It just is not enough. So know that critical race theory is not teaching hate. It's not teaching hate white people. It's not teaching white people are wrong. It's simply teaching history. And it's a theory of how systematically laws were created to keep the system running. That's it. So, will it be uncomfortable? Sometimes. You know, this was uncomfortable. This was on the edge of political and racism. But without these moments, we don't get there. We won't be able to get there. So know that I love and appreciate you. There were states like Georgia, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Florida, Mississippi that have banned the teaching of critical race theory. Yet in all of those states, you can pull up in any gas station and buy a Confederate flag. And so when we understand that that's one of the things right there, that's a symbol of hate. And when we honor symbols of hate, it keeps us in a system that says it's okay. So let's take a breath right here. Let's just take this breath. And know that for each and every one of you, whether you're watching right now or you watch later or you're right here in person, that the heart space, the love that is right here pouring itself through each and every one of us. That the answer doesn't have to be one answer, one way. But if it's filled with fear and hatred, it is not the way of the heart. It is the way of a critical mind. So we let the mind get quiet. And we allow the love of Spirit just to pour its love through us. If you don't know which way to go, choose love always. Love always leads to the highest road. Thank you for being with us this evening. And you know, Universal Spirit Center, we're about doing things all the time. So I'm so grateful for each and every one of you out there for all that you're doing. And now that we're back open and in person, whoop, 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 we're all excited. Know that every Wednesday we got stuff going on. I'm excited to share that next Wednesday, I'm starting a series with this sweet angel called Cook for Peace. Do you know where your food comes from? Do you know how your food is connected with you? Really, really, really powerful. So we just keep going at it. We keep doing it. We keep doing that thing. And it's all because of the love and support that you do. And there are many ways that you can support us here through your time, your talent, your treasures, for your energy. Leaving a comment on YouTube or Facebook. That supports us too. So you know that you can send in your tithes. You can send in little love ducats of money through our webpage. Also, when in person, normally we would have a basket. But there's many ways that you can also text it to us. And we do appreciate everything. It helps keep everything going on. There you go. Ooh, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah. Pour your love in me. Pour your love into my heart. Ooh, wonderful Spirit. So I got to tell you about everything else that's going on. Movie night is coming up right here at the Lions Club. You do not want to miss it. We're going to show here live The Bankers. Powerful movie. It'll take place on the 16th of July, I think it is. Yeah. Here, 6 o'clock. Come get your popcorn and your jujus and your M&Ms and water. And at 6:30, we'll start the movie. And afterwards, we'll open it up for discussion so we can talk about it. Really, really wonderful. Excited that movie night is back. Also, Sherry. Music and Gratitude this Saturday. I tell you, we're busy. It's going to be a great, great concert. And this is a gift back to the community for all the love that you have given us over this year and a half during the pandemic. Just saying thank you. Thank you so much to each of you. So come out. It's going to be a blast. We're going to have some fun. And it'll be all about the dancing, y'all. All about the dancing, baby. Get your groove on. Oh, yeah. Also, Sherry Ganan has a class coming up. You want to make sure you check that out. And I think you can get in touch with Sherry directly to find out. If not, always Lee at Universal Spirit Center. It'll be a powerful class. Yeah. And I think we have one more there. The action of the week. This is so fantastic. A racial equality project. We are always doing things that highlight the awareness of how racism is running in and through and things that we can do. So please go on our webpage, click on the REP signal, and you know what white people can do to move racial conversations forward. Really powerful, simple little things. And like tonight, just being able to have the conversation to keep the mind space open to just listen. And then you're off and running. You can dive in and find out more information. And as I said, next week we have Cook for Peace, which we will start with Julie Diaz. Really excited about that, to blend food and spirituality because they are one. And it's a series, as I said, and then we will have some cooking going on here at the Lions Club. Nothing hot, though. No hot cooking. Recipes for that. So, yeah, that'll be really cool. Thank you, Sarah Adams, for running the house tonight. So sweet. Thank you, thank you. Our sweet Christine Thompson, thank you so much. That prayer just helped centered me. Just so beautiful. Linda, always. Thank you, Linda. Oh, it's always great to be here with you and to share. I'm grateful to Universal Spirit Center. I'm so grateful to all that we do. and to the voice of a heart. We are a voice of a heart that says yes to change. And I am so absolutely in awe and in thanksgiving for that, because that's a big heart that steps into that. So thank you. Pour yourself into my heart. Oh, wonderful Spirit, pour yourself in me. Pour yourself into my heart. Oh, wonderful Spirit.